Hi, welcome to Success Beyond Reason, why achieving isn't making you happy and the three shifts that will. So, I just want to first start out by assuring you that you are in the right place if any of these things resonate. If you know there's more to life than what you've got right now. If you know just know that deep down in your heart, good job. You've taken an hour, you've come out of your day, you're taking time to really listen to that. You're in the right place. You're also in the right place if you consider yourself like a pretty decently high achiever, and yet you're not that fulfilled. These are related, but if that describes you, good job, welcome, so glad you're here. And then also, here's another sign that you're totally in the right place today is if you look at your calendar for the day, for the week, and you feel just this like ugh, down energy, sinky, cringy feeling, if there's an obligation or dread about any of it, really, but especially if it's about a lot of it, you have come to the right place. Congratulations for taking the time out of your day to be here. And I just want to say, I get it. I live it. I've lived it. I'm Rachel Zurr. If we don't know each other already, I am a coach, a love your life coach for high achievers. And, 10 years ago, some of you have known me that long. 10 years ago, I had a cool job, but my heart wasn't really, really into it. And I had an okay marriage, but I was secretly wishing it would die. I was like ashamed to even fully know that for myself, but I can look back and see that that was true. And I also had a lot of really, really unhealthy coping mechanisms that, like, none of you would be like, but I had these unhealthy coping mechanisms that I wasn't willing to or ready to admit were a problem yet. I didn't see another path. They were socially acceptable enough, right? And then what happened? Well, a bunch of things happened, but one of the things happened, a major thing that I met two bodies of work that are related to each other. One of them is the Conscious Loving. It's a book by Gay and Katie Hendricks and a whole body of work. And then also the 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. And these together blew my mind and started this long, slow process of really pretty incredible transformation. I left the job, I left the marriage, I moved into an RV for like 13 months, got back right as the pandemic started, started a copywriting business. I had been a magazine editor before that. I bought a house, started renting an Airbnb, this house, for example, actually. And then I proceeded to make about 200K a year with all my different endeavors for several years in a row, working like 20 hours a week and spending weeks and weeks every year on personal growth retreats. Like I really created something very, very magical that people long for. And it was awesome. And yet I was, meanwhile doing all this deep growth work. And then in 2025, it got very clear that my heart was calling me into making that deep growth work, the evolutionary work, my primary business through teaching and coaching. So here I am. And the core point I'm wanting you to get from all of that is that if me from 10 years ago could see my life now, she would be amazed and delighted by the amount of joy and meaning and flow and abundance and pleasure and magic that I do live with right now. And even more importantly, so that's my story. But this is possible for you too. This is truly, truly possible. And it takes a few things. It takes courage because things will change. If you're not happy now and you want to be happier, stuff will start to change. And it also takes will. A life that feels really meaningful and full and joyful does not happen on autopilot. This is not the place where we end up if we're not really putting effort in. But most importantly, it takes some skills that are not the ones most of us learned in school, not skills we learned growing up. I think they're kind of a lost art. A lot of them, are rooted in ancient wisdom traditions, but people are not living very much in alignment with that. Like the Industrial Revolution and all sorts of other big cultural forces really interrupted some deep wisdom. And there's new things we need to learn for the new era. But so there's really some serious skills about having this, what I call success beyond reason, that starts to really, really change what's possible for you. So, as we begin, I just want to ask you to consider for yourself and write this down even, or really, really like come up with a number on a scale from 1 to 10. How much of a yes are you to your whole life? 1 to 10. I'll pause, think about it. And what is dragging it down? If there's one thing pulling it downward. And then here's a crazy question for you. What if you're 8? or 7 or 6 or whatever you put there. Most people, when I ask this question, it's somewhere in the range of like 6 to 8. Like most people who show up on a call like this are not totally horribly miserable, but they're not at a 10 or else they wouldn't need to spend their time on something like this, right? So what if the number you put, whether it's a 6, a 7, an 8, what if that is actually a 2? What if that is actually a 2 for where your life could be? And that you've got some protector mechanisms keeping you from even envisioning how much farther and better it could go. Just seeding that in there as we get started. Okay, so I want to give you a sense of where we're going, what our container and agenda is for today. I'm going to ask all questions, save for the end if we're going to do any questions. Um, I will do some teaching for the first 30 to 45 minutes, and then I'm going to make sure that you know your options for getting more support with really, really integrating these ideas into your life so that you can have the type of massive transformation that I have had in the last decade and more. I will definitely also make sure to leave time to answer any questions anybody has. So that sound good? Okay, let go. Let's go. Let go. That's a good one too. Okay, so I'm just going to invite us all as we begin a journey to begin how I like to often with my coaching sessions, which is to just take a moment of landing more deeply in the breath and the body than you may have been up till now. Hmm. And as you really just feel the places you're making contact with the surfaces supporting you and invite a couple deeper breaths in. Just let yourself notice your intention. Why are you here on this call? Why are you listening to this recording? What is it that attracts you to even taking the time to listen to me here today? What brought you here? And then next level of invitation, what would it look like for you to take responsibility for letting this time be really meaningful for you? For letting this be a worthwhile investment of some time. I'm going to do my part to offer you what I think is some really like meaningful content. But how can you really allow this time to mean something for you? Okay. And just to point out, this is an invitation, intention, and taking responsibility for meaning that you can bring to any moment, any meaning, any experience in your whole life. So just offering that as a tiny little tool as we get started. So let's get into it. All right. So if you have showed up here, if you are watching this video, if you are listening to me, you probably want a few things. My guess is that you are here because partly you have a deep longing in your heart to make a real contribution with your life. And I suspect that you probably really, really want to be actively pursuing the things that bring you meaning and satisfaction. I have a solid guess that you, like many people, want to give your gifts in a way that fulfills you. You want to end your days feeling well used, joyfully spent. Sometimes it feels really good to be used. Also, you want to be both really well used in your days and then also be able to enjoy your rest, be able to have that cup of coffee out on the back porch, watching the birds and not feel like you should be somewhere else, to be able to really, really be present and enjoy it. My guess is you're probably wanting to make good money doing things you love with people you love and ideally that are good at and that you're good at and that make a difference for the world. That's something you probably likely want if this attracted you. Waking up energized and rested and ready to go every day because you have something you're excited to go towards, and also feeling a deep connection with the people in your life. Okay, those things resonating? And I just want to assure you that if these are things you want, they are totally, totally natural, real human needs. And there's a decent reason I can guess that you want them because they're a longing that shows up in all of us. And just to reassure you that it is not unreasonable or selfish at all to want these things. It is your soul craving things, your humanity craving things. It is your possibility for self-actualization craving things, right? But most people, if they are wanting these things and they do not have them, what they diagnose the problem as is, oh, it's me. It's me. I should have had this figured out by now. It's because I'm not working hard enough. It's because I'm not grateful enough. I'm doing it wrong. There's something I'm doing wrong. There's some way I'm not enough. There's some memo I missed that has me not being able to do this. And so if that's what you understand, is the problem. And let me know if that resonates with you. But if that's what you understand as the problem, then of course you're going to pick a solution that matches that problem. The thing is you need to, yeah, so I'll save that for another minute. But so you try to achieve harder. Like maybe you get a different job or you really like focus on better habits. I'm not against better habits, just to be clear. You try and set clearer goals or have more discipline. Or you try and just dismiss that you want anything different than you have. It's like you're just like, no, no, let's put that down. Problem is it's like putting a ball underwater, right? You put the ball underwater and then it pops up and it takes a lot of energy to keep it held down. So that's a way people try to solve it is like, okay, well, if this is just a me problem, I shouldn't want this. And another thing we do to try and solve it is distract ourselves. So getting really busy is a way that we distract ourselves. I'm really good at cleaning and doing logistical things when I don't want to feel things or notice that I'm dissatisfied. And there's all sorts of other ways we numb out. Alcohol, other substances, sugar, scrolling, TV, sex, exercise. Like there are things we do to numb out and that are not necessarily in and of themselves a bad thing. Some of them, like exercise, for example, like I'm all for exercise, but or even working hard and staying busy. But when we do it from a place where we're trying to avoid and we feel bad, then it's really just distracting ourselves from the problem. And when we do that, when we both try to achieve harder and distract ourselves from our real desire, we end up where we feeling like drained, frustrated, powerless. We keep pushing through with willpower and we can hit goals, we can hit the goals we set, but we'll still feel flat on the other side. And we never seem to get there. It's like this never-ending mirage that we're chasing. And then the thing that can start happening, and a lot of my clients come to me with this, is the body starts protesting. There's stomach things that show up, or weird muscle things, or injuries. Stress is not good for our nervous systems and for our systems as a whole. And resentment starts to build around people or things, or like other people having what we wish we had. Jealousy can start to happen at this point. And the thing you actually want, feeling genuinely alive in your own life, it stays just out of reach. And for a lot of people, I used to be the editor of a magazine called Conscious Company. And in that magazine, for that magazine, I got to interview dozens of entrepreneurs and CEOs who had started like very unusual, heart-driven, mission-driven businesses. And for many of them, it was really, really common for them to have a story of the two by four moment, the something that emergency in their life that came and knocked them into a state of being. So here's the big thing I want you to understand is that you are not the problem. And the thing that is off is not your calendaring or your habits, it's an operating system. It's an operating system. Or we could call it a fuel source. So you have been running on high achiever fuel. It powers our world. And it is made up of, in the body, the hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, these ones that get you moving, and stress. And you're chasing approval and control, and it's made up of thoughts like, it's all up to me. These are high achiever fuel. And underneath the high achiever fuel, the main thing running the operating system is fear. So many decisions are being made from fear. And even if it doesn't feel like it, fear of losing approval, fear of losing control, fear of losing security. 90% of people are running 90% of the time on fear and don't even know it. And the thing is, running in this way on this high achiever fuel, on the fear operating system, it's like effective enough for building a successful life within our current society, right? It's the thing this society is optimized for in some ways, but it's terrible at making a life that feels truly, truly alive and sustainable and like the thing we really want. And another way to think of this is that all these things we're trying to fix it, those are left brain moves trying to solve a right brain problem, right? We can't think our way into aliveness in the same way. And if this is how you are running on this high achiever fuel, this fear operating system, it's not an accident. It's not your fault. It's the thing you were rewarded for your entire life. The people who raised you were probably running on that fuel. The culture you live in is optimizing for it. Nobody taught you there was another option because most of the people teaching you this didn't really realize it either. This has become the water we're swimming in. It's so normalized, we can't even see it around us, but it is all around us, and it is not the only option. There is a different fuel source available for you, a different operating system, and it is making this switch from one to the other that can actually get you those things you want, that sense of aliveness, purpose, joy, meaning, alignment. I like to call this other fuel source wild genius. I have some teachers who call it just plain genius. You could even call it like intuition or soul or your whole self or your higher self. And instead of running on fear, it runs on presence and trust and love instead of anxiety and control. And much less than speaking through your brain or your to-do list or your habit trackers, it speaks through your body a lot more than we're used to. And also, it produces a very, very different quality of life when you switch to a different whole system of operating and orientation and changing the fuel source you're running on. You may get more achievement, but that's not the point. You're optimizing for something different. You're optimizing for more aliveness, and so that is what you get. And I want to invite you to risk switching to a different fuel source. And just to say very clearly, this is not like all or nothing. This is not like you were entirely running on fear or you were entirely instantly able to run on love. Usually, for almost everybody, it's a bit of a dimmer switch instead of a light switch. We start to shift into running on this love, presence, wild genius more and more and more often, and our results in our life, who we get to become, start to shift around it. But it'll be a dance for a long time. And the goal is to just more and more and more run on wild genius. We can be hybrids. Let's start to become hybrids for a while. Let's do that. And this makes sense because this thing we're looking for alignment, it necessarily starts from the inside. You can't just tweak the outside. You can't just tweak the ideas. And it also will never look like anyone else's, just some reminders along this journey. Your alignment by definition will be totally yours. It can't possibly be someone else's. It's like your fingerprint. It's what's aligned with you is uniquely creative in any moment. And when we're living in this alignment from this fuel source, we're worrying it's not that we don't care at all about what we're doing, but we focus even more about how we're doing it, what state we're doing it from. And the different what's start to become possible and take care of themselves and have different impacts when we're paying attention to the how. Now, I just want to like acknowledge and honor that this invitation I'm offering to you, it requires you to put something really, really different at the center of your life. Instead of chasing approval and control and security from the outside, it's inviting you to deeply, deeply tap in to the wisdom within you, to something higher and bigger and broader and quieter. And it is very risky to start doing this to your current identity and to some people around you who are used to the old way. So, just to reassure the part of you that might be getting nervous about that, I'm not saying you need to throw away all your old skills of getting things done, of, of achievement, of willpower, of the capacity to work hard. We're not throwing those away, but we're adding a different way of being with them, a different driver, a different fuel, like I was saying, a different motivation, and a different state of being while we do the doing. And it makes all the difference. So I want, I'm just going to take a pause. Mhm. Yeah. So there's a whole different operating system. And I promised you we'd learn three shifts about how to get actually happier with this beyond reason thing, right? So I have a bunch of ideas of the skills it takes to develop this high alignment living, this changing your fuel source to the genius within you. But I'm going to talk about three of them today that make a really, really big difference. And if you start to do these three things, you will, I absolutely promise, start to move into a life of more alignment where your calendar starts to reflect what actually matters to you more, where decisions can get easier sometimes because you're consulting different parts of yourself and you feel more free inside your life even before anything outside changes. Like it'll start to change internally, some even before it changes outside. Also, warning though, you will likely need to disappoint some people and to do hard things, like sitting with uncertainty longer than is comfortable or trusting things you can't prove yet. Um, but that's part of what makes this different. It's not just another productivity strategy. It is really, really a different way of being and operating. But we can start with small things. We don't have to get all the way into the deep end. Okay, so the first shift. Are you ready for it? The first shift that can start to make a really big difference is actually just telling the truth about where you're operating from. Telling the truth, confessing. I read somebody's talking today about how confessing is just actually telling the truth. It's not about the remorse. It's not about wishing you hadn't done something. It's about what is true right now. And this is about starting to pay attention to which operating system you are operating from. And as you start to do this, you may have some experiences in your life. They probably felt like kind of peak experiences with a lot of joy and creativity, where you've operated from this wild genius state, from presence, from love. I doubt this is completely unfamiliar to you. And at the same time, it might not be super available or super common. It might not be something that is an everyday experience for you. And so don't worry if, as you start to tell the truth about where you're operating from, it's mostly from fear. But awareness brings choice. And so this is a major shift that I want to invite you into in every moment, is to, as often as possible as you can, ask, where am I? What system was I using? Yet another way to talk about this difference of operating system is this idea of, am I above the line or below the line? Above the line is in that place of presence and trust, operating on wild genius. Below the line is in that place of fear. So, or we can also just say, am I operating from fear or from trust right now? Fear or from love? Trust, presence, curiosity versus fear, defense, cortisol. And from below the line, it's not like there's a problem being there. Our brains are deeply, deeply evolved to bring us there all the time, to sense a threat, to respond, right? It's very natural that we end up there a lot. Fear is the state of fear is very common, but we don't need to stay there. And it's not where we're going to create our best life from. So getting aware, where am I right now? And then being honest, oh, okay, I'm in a state of fear. So my body just took a deep breath, even as I said that. I think there's some truth of it right now. It's a little uncomfortable to be sitting here talking to the camera, being, telling you all these things. So there's some fear in my body. That doesn't mean I'm doing it wrong, but it is so useful for me to be honest and aware that that is true, because it creates choice. I can slow down. I can take a breath. We can talk, my clients learn a lot more about what to do when we notice we're below the line, when we notice we're running from fear, but starting to just acknowledge it, to get curious about, where am I coming from? And I just want to tell you that, like, I've been doing this work of tuning into, where am I, moment by moment by moment throughout the day. I've been doing this work for over a decade. Um, and it's especially helpful when I'm like really triggered, when I'm like mad at somebody, to be able to be like, oh, I'm below the line. I'm operating in fear right now. Gives me just a little bit of space to have new possibilities come open, to have choice come open, right? I am experienced at this. I am trained in this. I teach this, and yet it is still an ongoing process. I will tell you that even just preparing for this webinar, I noticed through listening to some coaching from a coach I work with that I was really in a state of fear around the sun, and some of the thoughts that came with that were like, oh, I need to do it right. There's a right way. Um, the stakes are high, things like that. These things that were, I could tell they were creating a feeling in my body of some kind of contraction. And so, in understanding this possibility of telling the truth about where I was operating from, that led me to be able to make some different choices, where instead of trying to practice a lot or get it right or put all my energy into the doing, into the achievement things, the things that the one in me who knows how to achieve would think would be the way to do a better job here. I let myself put my energy into shifting into a state of trust, into consciously pulling up my motivation, my desire, my reasons, the things I could trust, the energy I want to be in while creating. And suddenly it all didn't seem like such a big deal, right? From a state of trust, problems, new solutions show up, problems resolve. There's space to let guidance in. And so telling the truth about where we're operating from, that gives us the choice. So that's the first shift I would really invite you in. Write a post-it note, start practicing, where am I? Or what is my operating system? Asking yourself as often as possible. And this comes when you're in a fight with somebody and you notice you're really triggered, when you're feeling really angry and driving in traffic, when you're feeling impatient in a grocery line, or when you're trying to do something for work and you feel a little stuck. It's not flowing. You're trying to make a decision and it's hard. Just get honest. Am I in fear right now or am I in trust and presence? And if you're in fear, that's a good thing to be really, really aware of. Okay, another shift that you can start to make to start creating success that is beyond what your reason, your rational, your logical mind can create is learning to let the body vote. And when I say the body, I mean literally the physical body, and it also is a way to really tap into the right brain because your body knows things. Actually, own that domain name. Your body knows things. And your body knows things your mind doesn't. So, this is part of what intuition is. It's taking in information, but I also really, really believe that there's a lot of there's a way that our deeper purpose and soul is really communicated through the body in a way that it isn't as much through the mind. And there's a yes and a no in your body. And a lot of us have been trained out of feeling the difference, or we have learned deeply, deeply, deeply to override our no, to do things anyway. And so we are missing out on all this wisdom that we may never understand rationally, but that our body is giving us. And the good news is it's a learnable skill. It's a learnable skill to tune into the body and start using it to have a vote in the decisions you make. And it can then guide you along your path to your true fulfillment. All of my career moves in the last decade and even more have really, really come from me being able to listen to the aliveness in my body, which is a physical feeling. It's a physical feeling. And then let that be my compass, my guide to what is real alignment versus I can make a pro con list and think something is a good decision and feel my body contracting and miserable around it. That and then if I weren't letting my body vote, I would just go do it anyway. But if I'm letting my body guide and have a say, then I'm going to really listen to that and I'm going to seriously consider it. And I'm going to let the price of overriding my body be not an externality we are ignoring like carbon in the atmosphere, but letting it be something that is, I will really consciously take in as part of the price if I don't choose to listen to it. Okay. So that's shift number two. And for some people, it takes some practice to really start listening to the body. It did for me. And so a really simple way to start that is to just feel into what does your body do when you think of something you're a big yes to, someone you love or an experience you would have again. Just notice the specifics in your body that come up when you think about that. And then what happens when you think about something you're a no to, something you did in some experience you would definitely not want to have again. Nothing traumatic, but like, eh. I don't know what happens in your body when you find the thing on your calendar you're kind of dreading and you're kind of a subtle no to it. Notice those things and start to tune in. Let yourself actually let your body have a vote. Here's another way to play with it. If it feels hard to reach, let yourself kind of get caveman-y. Let yourself get silly and stupid. Me you like, me no like, me like water, me no like sitting so long. Right? If you start to get more playful with it and get out of your mind, you can start to also let your body vote. Okay? So give those a try. And these are some keys to getting more into this success beyond reason and finding your way to a life that is truly going to make you happy. And the third shift, this one can be a little controversial, and it's one that I'd like to invite you to receive this as an invitation to try on a way to play the game, a way to play the game of being alive. Not to say that I'm right about this or that you absolutely have to believe it, but a shift that can create massive change and help you start running on the wild genius operating system instead of fear operating system, to help you start prioritizing alignment beyond achievement, is choosing. Here's the shift: choosing as an act of will to believe that you are safe enough to follow what is actually alive in you. And I know this is easier said than done, and I can never prove it, but I love playing the game this way. So some other ways to put this is choosing to trust that everything that could possibly happen to you and everything that does happen to you is in some way an ally for your growth, your awakening, your full aliveness. And so if you're believing that, then all you can say to whatever happens is good, right? Which is very different than gripping and being in fear to a lot of things. Another way to put this is this choice to trust is the practice of sourcing your security and control and approval from within. Now that is a big, big idea. It is part of what most spiritual paths are about. Some of them can point it towards God. I kind of mean those as the same thing. You don't need to have any particular belief system or faith here, but can you trust that you are perfectly loved, that you are perfectly safe at the deepest level, even if your physical body isn't, at something deeper than that level, that you have all the control you could possibly need, no matter what's happening outside? So yet another way to put this is detaching your well-being from the circumstances, right? We like to think that the circumstances are what make us happy or not, but it's possible. It's possible to have the same circumstances and a very different experience based on the stories we're telling ourselves and the choices we're making about what we want to believe. So if you start to believe that it is safe to risk taking these leaps, and you won't get to know that until you take them, right? If you start to trust that your intuition, the thing that your desire that is guiding you towards, is not just coming out of nowhere, that there's a good reason that you're being pulled towards something, that you are in a co-creative dance with something bigger than you and that it's going to pull you that direction. If you start playing the game that way, some cool stuff will happen. More serendipity, more flow. You are in more possibility to to have things just work really well, to be in co-creation with the universe. It is it is going to be very easy for your brain to want to argue with me on this one. And so I would just begin to tell you, you don't have to like quit your job and move into an RV, right? And leave your marriage. I'm not suggesting it needs to be that. But there's a way that if you start to be willing to put your safety into something else, something other than the mechanics of the logistics of the things your left brain can understand, you enter into a world of freedom where you get to then also access that place of trust and presence more often. You get to access a different kind of wisdom. You get to access your body's wisdom. Okay. Hope that makes sense. These are not tiny things that I'm inviting. This is a big shift. It is a big radical shift. And it is not how most people are out there living. And it is not comfortable for your ego. And it is not comfortable for the people around you. And what I will say is that it is freaking magical, but it does not happen all at once. It's a practice. So here's where I want you to start today. Just find a low stakes decision, like what to order, what route to take home, what to do with an hour. And don't think about it, but ask your body. Notice what feels like a yes versus a no, and see, note, and then notice where you are. Tell the truth about what state of being you're in. Am I in presence or am I in fear right now? When you start doing this, you get to start trusting your instincts more and stop second guessing yourself. Your calendar starts to reflect what actually matters to you because you're trusting and you're not saying yes and you feel in alignment as you notice when your body is saying yes and no, and you get more energy for your working or creative life if you're doing the things that are coming from this sort of inherent fuel source. Um, you get to feel more honest and more like yourself, and you get to trust that you can handle whatever arises, whether it's emotions or situations, that there's nothing that could be happening in your life that isn't for you. You're able to rest and actually enjoy it. You would have a bigger impact because you're moving from this place of genius. So, yeah, to recap, the reason you are not finding true happiness from achievement is because achievement is all about left brain things and the operating system of fear. And actual fulfillment and aliveness requires that you optimize for something else, that you start working on a different operating system, that you start paying attention to where you're coming from, and that you start doing the things you need to do to more and more and more orient to trusting what happens from that state of presence more than you trust what happens from the state of fear. And that is quite a journey. It is quite a journey. It has been a journey for me. I'm still ongoing in it. I haven't completely not like arrived or enlightened, but it is something I'm committed to and dedicated to, and my life gets better and better and better the better I do that. Okay, so that's the class. Thank you, everyone. I will answer any questions about what I taught or how it applies to you, but before we move into questions, I want to name something really, really important. As I just said, everything I've taught you today and talked about, it works. I have seen it transform my life, the lives of many of my clients, the lives of my teachers' clients. But hearing about it or understanding it intellectually is not what actually creates a change, right? Especially not something that's radical and foundational. You don't go to a presentation about riding a bike or learning to swim and then like know it, right? And even reading books about it every day isn't enough. You need to actually start practicing it, and then you need reflection and help and support as you are starting to do the awkward new thing that is new for you. And so it's one thing to get insight, which I hope you got today. Uh, but insight is only like 20% of a path or an evolution. Like it's important, but 80% is about building these muscles, these mental muscles, like the habit of checking into where I am, the skill of building into checking in with the body, the skill of choosing thoughts that point you towards trust. That is way, way, way easier with support and accountability and someone making sure that you are not getting stuck in your own blind spots as you spin with it. Yeah. So I just want to say that, most of us are really, really good at numbing out the pain of not living our full potential. But it is a real pain. Like the number one regret that people have on their deathbeds is that they did not have the courage to live true to themselves and instead did what other people expected of them. I don't think it's just courage. I think it's also skill. But, if nothing changes in your environment or your relationships or the sport around you, the default will win. It is the center of gravity of our world. And the change happens when you really start practicing these shifts in real time with support and reflection to see and break out of the patterns and in the situations that are actually triggering you, like the email from the client or the hard conversation with your partner or your mom or a big decision or how your body shuts down in reaction. Having support in those moments is absolutely crucial. So I just want to say, like, you showed up. You were here. You listened to this talk. You were thinking about your life differently. You are in a rare moment. Your brain is open. Your soul is waving through. And these windows like this, they do not stay open forever. This will not be your last one. I'm sure it is not. Your soul, like I said, those 2x4s will come if you don't take action. But you are in a window of opportunity right now. And in a day or two, or maybe even a few hours, the familiar will likely start to take over. So if anything I'm teaching about here is resonating, and if part of you is thinking, yes, 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 this is the direction I want my life to move, I would like to invite you to not leave that insight sitting on the shelf. I want you to invite you to take the next step while your clarity is fresh, your while your aliveness is tapping you on the shoulder. Okay. So the way I help people make these shifts is through one-on-one coaching. It's deep, it's personalized, we slow down when we recalibrate how you're actually living your life. And for me, over the last 10 years, having coaches has been an absolute game changer. The way I work with people, I'm like sort of like a therapist in some ways. You get to bring your emotions totally unconditionally, and we untangle a lot of how your past might be involved in what's coming up right now. But we're actually going deeper, right? We have more play, we get more shifts, more empowerment. I've had people tell me after spending time with me or being my clients that this is way more uplifting and fun and meaningful than therapy was for them. So in coaching, we meet weekly. We meet over Zoom for an hour. I work with people all over the world. And our work together is really about helping you shift this operating system and not just thinking differently about it, but really starting to live differently about it and meet those pressure points where this is feeling really hard. So in sessions, I can pause you and slow things down, help you notice what your body is telling you. I can offer you new perspectives and beliefs to try on. I help you learn to feel your feelings instead of overriding them so you can actually be in the body and get its full wisdom. We create exercises and experiments to try in your life in between sessions. You get access to me between sessions as well for accountability. And if little things come up in the moment, we can talk about them. And I really help you take charge of your mind and your nervous system so that you can start operating from this different operating system. And so it's a space where you get to be completely honest and reflect on what's happening in your life and practice new ways of being. So, if you're getting a little bit scared and a little bit excited about the possibility, that is good. Everything starts with a free consultation. And this is just a conversation where we step back, we look at your life as a whole, we explore what's working, what isn't working, what you actually want, what's been getting in the way, and what the next chapter of your life could look like. So, and just this time of listening and reflecting and open to possibility has been actually game changing for people. So, that consultation, which is where we would start to get you the support, the one on one support to possibly really start shifting your operating system, that is completely free. There's no obligation. We can just have a call and call it good there. I will be delighted to have spent time with you. And if it feels like coaching could help you, we talk about what that could look like. And if it doesn't, you're still going to leave the call with clarity and direction. It's really, really helpful to get honest with yourself in this way. It's a way to start telling the truth about some other things. So if something in this conversation is resonating for you, I want you to go right now to wildgenius.com. I'm going to put the link in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, you're probably already on the site, but there's a button below you that you can say click book now and find a time for a consultation that works for you in the next 2 weeks. Don't put it off. See if you can find it. And if you can find a spot that fits your schedule in the next 2 weeks, send me an email and we'll find a secret time that isn't on the calendar. Okay? Because if this matters to you, if you feel this call, if you're ready to start getting some support to move forward, I will definitely make space for it. And it is absolutely worth you making space for. Do not wait until the feeling fades and life fills up that space again. Take a step while you're still connected to what you want. You can go ahead and book now while we're talking. I will not be offended. Or if you don't have the sense that talking to me is your right move yet, take a moment and pause and really feel into what is your next right move. What is the thing that, like, what do you want to do with what you learned today? How does that relate to your intention? How does that relate to you taking responsibility for getting what you came for today? What did you come for? Is there something I said that you want to take action on? Commit to that. And I would love to hear about it if you do. Send me an email with that too. Um, okay. Whew. So, um, some questions. Okay. All right. My schedule is already packed. I'm not even sure I even have time to do something like coaching. Yes, this is a very common thing I get with my high achievers who come to me feeling like, oh, I think I want to change, but that sounds like a lot. I just want to say that is exactly why you need coaching. If you are not living the life you want to, and you have not figured out how to get a calendar that isn't completely running you ragged, it is not going to get better on your own. And it's not like you're just going to stop being busy without changing the reasons underneath why you're doing that, which have to do with this fear operating system. So the thing that happens is when people start doing this work, is they reclaim a lot of energy and time because they stop wasting. I don't want to say wasting, but they stop doing the unaligned things, and they start really emphasizing and feeling very empowered about doing the things that matter most to them, right? And so I find that even feeling like you have no time for something like this, one, it's probably not actually literally true. If your kid got sick and you needed to squeeze in an hour a week to take them to some medical appointment, could you do that? You probably would figure it out, right? So it's really a matter of deciding it's a priority and then trusting that that the coaching itself will help you feel less squeezed because it's part of what we'll be up to. Okay. So just to just to recap before I answer the next question, and just a quick reminder that if you want help applying this to your life to really, really start to make this switch, you can book the free consultation at 75 minutes at wildgenius.com. And on that call, we will look at your life as a whole and figure out where you're stuck and what the next step actually is. And Maria, one of my previous consult folks who didn't even actually sign, said it was super supportive to reflect on the spectrum of my full life at once, and it brought to the surface certain things I'd been burying or denying that needed attention. I could see what I haven't wanted to deal with or look at. It's a powerful reflection of what needs tending. Yes. Okay. So Maria had an incredible experience that helped her get into more alignment with her finances just from our calls. She didn't even become a client, but she was so happy about it. She left me a testimonial just on the client calls. So I know some of you might be booking while we're talking, but just to recap, if you're feeling even a little bit curious about what your life could look like on the other side of all these shifts that I am teaching here, go book that consultation. Having a coach is seriously, it's like, it's the best. It can feel like a luxury. Like it's really pleasurable to be willing to take an hour a week on your, like, investing totally in your own evolution and development. It can feel like a luxury. And yet at the same time, it is the highest leverage type of work you could possibly do. More than buying a car or renovating your bathroom or even a particular vacation, like taking a chunk of your time and money and investing it in upgrading your own power to run on a different operating system, it completely changes who you get to be for the rest of your life and who you get to be, the example you set for your kids, what you get to pass on for them, for your coworkers, for your loved ones, your friends, your people around you, for all the people you get to touch in the work that you're doing. So I really, really there's a way it can feel scary to invest in something really intangible, like getting support in moving to an operating system that most people think is quite radical and not what most people are doing. I can totally get why that would feel scary and why there's a part of your brain thinking, no, 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 I should definitely not do that, trying to keep you back where you were, keeping you in the same place. But if there is a twinkle in you that this is for you and that some support can be here, I just want you to really listen to that. Take take the risk of booking the consult. We don't need to, if it ends up being not the right thing when you hear even more of the details, all good. But take the time to really, really let that whisper move. This is like being willing to trust that it is safe to move from the one in you who trusts her body, who trusts herself, who trusts possibility. That is part of how you start to create the life that you really want, of full alignment and true achievement. Okay. So, and I just want to share that another woman who worked with me said that this is a version of self-development that I haven't found in traditional self-help methods. I felt a huge boost in my confidence and my ability to feel what I'm feeling instead of pushing it down. She says, Rachel, your intuition makes me more confident in my intuition, and it was 1,000,000% worth the investment, especially because I couldn't afford it. It made me take the work seriously. Yeah, so she had a huge evolution in her experience with her family and how she was able to show up in relationship with her mom. That was quite life-changing. That was a big thing we worked on together. So, all right. Um, let's see if we have any other questions. Okay. Um, all right, yeah. So, this idea that we're always safe, especially given how uncertain the world feels right now, this idea that we can trust that everything is for us, like how that feel like how can I believe that even in a way that still feels grounded in reality when there really is suffering in the world when scary big things are happening on the geopolitical level, not to mention on the personal level. And I just want to say that is a fair question. And when I say you're always safe or that you can deeply trust life, and that's the invitation, it is an experiment. It is a point of view. Like I said, I'm not proving it is the absolute truth, and I'm not claiming that nothing hard or uncertain will ever happen. Obviously, life includes real risks and challenges. It is, I would say, 50-50. Hard things are guaranteed to happen in our lives, right? But what I'm talking about is an orientation. We could choose be living in constant fear and threat detection, always like scanning for what could go wrong. Or we can choose to operate from trust, trusting that I can meet whatever life brings and trusting that whatever life is bringing to me has to do with is for me. And there's a spiritual piece to this for me. Again, I was very not spiritual growing up. This has been something I've grown into. So this may resonate for some people more than others. I want to assure you that if you don't consider yourself spiritual, this body of work is still um, really meaningful. But I like living as if my life is held by something larger than my own control. The Stoics called this the logos, right? You could call it life. You could call it a deeper intelligence. There is an intelligence that moves in each one of us. It is the force that took you from a couple cells as a sperm cell and an egg cell, and very mysteriously grew you into the being that you are now. That type of intelligence, yes, it's DNA, but if you really get into the embryology, there's a lot that is unexplainable beyond that. The like for example, there's a place where the blastocyst becomes 120 cells. 120 is not a multiple of something continuing to divide about itself. Like it's not the number you would get if you were just having each cell divide in two at a regular interval. So some of them know how to and some of them don't. Anyway, random embryology fact, sorry. But I just want to say that like the force that is growing your fingernails and keeping your heart beating and grew you from a couple cells into the being you are in this miraculous way, that deeper intelligence, that is the thing that I am inviting you into, allowing to guide you more in your day-to-day life meaning, just meaning things. I can't prove it. I can't prove that you can lean into it, but there's so much wisdom out there that points to it, almost every ancient spiritual tradition. And more importantly, I have found that when I live from this posture of trust instead of fear, if I come back to it again and again, if I make that my practice, my life gets better and better. I make better decisions. I feel more aligned. Surprisingly miraculous, cool, unexplainable things happen to me when I start really having that period of trust. Okay, so, whew. If you still haven't signed up for a consultation, it's possible that you have this thought that you should be able to figure it out everything on your own. That's a really common high achiever thing. But the truth is that meaningful change happens faster when you have someone outside your thinking to help you see what you can't see, right? It's like that's why people have coaches. All the best athletes have coaches. They do not try to do it on their own. This makes total sense to us with physical things, but with the inside of our own head, we somehow think we should be able to do it differently. It's actually harder to see that yourself, right? Um, yeah. So you get to, um, if you're curious enough to explore the possibility of what this could mean for you. Go to wildgenius.com, go book your full free consultation, click that book call button. There's free, there's no obligation. It might give you more clarity than you expect. And if we do work together, it will be weekly, one-on-one, an hour for you to drop in, bring whatever is most painful, most alive, most challenging, the thing that was hardest from your week or that you're longing for, and we slow down with it together. We trust the natural curriculum that's coming up. We really get into the heart of what it is and how you can start understanding and approaching whatever issue is you're dealing with from this high alignment, wild genius fuel state of presence, and how you can start to see how you're in a state of fear and what it would look like to change it, right? And so then, and the results people get, I've had people come who think their marriage needs to end and actually realize that there's ways they can show up that have them staying in it gladly. I've had people make their investment back really quickly just from having more courage to ask for things and set boundaries. Suddenly, they have actually cash in the bank that they wouldn't have had without our work and guidance together that totally paid for their investment, and they still have months left to keep getting the benefits, right? I have people who have the capacity to trust themselves at a whole deeper level, and people really start to learn how to start steering their life from a completely different way. Okay, my friends, I am going to bring it to a close there. If you have any more questions, please feel free to email me anytime, rachel@wildgenius.com. It has been such a pleasure to spend this time with you today. And I see some of you may have already booked your consultations while we were talking. I'm so excited to meet you. If you haven't, please just remember, take a moment, really, really commit to what are you going to let change from this time together? And if you have a sense that having your own coach, having your own person to show up with you, transmitting presence with you, if that is part of what you need, my door is open. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you all the success way beyond reasonable. Deep bow to you. Thank you, friends.